And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. We'll look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network, also a co-host of this program. I am joined this and every week by our other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, Rich. I'm coming down the home stretch. I'm getting all of my online Christmas purchases complete. You know, it's only a couple of weeks till Christmas now, Rich. You know, that other big event that everybody's crossing their days off on their calendar for this year.
Yeah, you know, and funny you mentioned that because just earlier today it occurred to me I'm most of the way through my list, but there are still a few names there. And this year, unlike other years, you know, UPS and FedEx, those guys are just hammered. Amazon, so it's like you got to get the orders in early. So I'm feeling a little time pressure right now.
Yeah. Well, I like your chances. You're ahead of the game.
Let's hope so. Well, and let's also dive into our top story of the week here, which comes to us from Datto. Datto, as we all know, had its initial public offering late in October. They are a publicly traded company right now. On the day that IPO happened, the key message from the company to its partners was, nothing to worry about here, folks. Nothing significant is going to change. The things you like about our products and you like about working with us are going to continue the way they were before. We've just raised some money now that we can put to work on your behalf. Well, this past week, Datto did another in its ongoing series of online partner events. And at the beginning of that, there was a Q&A with Tim Weller, the CEO of the company, in which he reiterated that point and also shed a little bit more light on what's coming up for the company in some interesting ways. So first and foremost, he did emphasize that, you know, business as usual. He used those exact words. We are committed to the strategy that we were committed to before the IPO. This remains true now. It's just that now we've got close to $600 million that we raised on the stock exchange that we can begin investing. And he did talk about hiring. They've actually been hiring this year. He was proud to say that they're going to exit 2020 with more employees than they entered the year with, despite the economic downturn, and there have been layoffs at many companies in and out of the IT industry, but they've been hiring. They will continue to hire. They are looking at hiring a few hundred people next year. If you look more specifically at where they will be making investments, there were some interesting observations as well. And one of those is that they will be looking to make investments around cloud computing. And we've spoken on the 5-Minute Roundup before about the fact that the next generation of management for MSPs is going to be in that software as a service, infrastructure as a service realm. The RMN tools that MSPs are using today are terrific at hardware, managing endpoints. They're not so great at managing cloud applications and resources. And Datto is well aware of this. They're watching the now accelerated migration into the cloud. They're going to be making investments in that area. And in fact, Weller said that they will be raising their level of investment around cloud management 40% in 2021. So evidence of some seriousness of intent there. The other thing he said, which I have heard him say, you know, in person, face to face in the past, was that right now, at least, it doesn't sound like they're looking to make significant investments in security, which is a little bit interesting because if you look at their biggest competitors, ConnectWise, Kaseya, SolarWinds, specifically SolarWinds MSP, all of those companies are making substantial investments in one form or another around security. And what Weller told me about a year and a half ago at the 2019 DattoCon event is that from a Datto perspective, they don't really think SMBs at this point in time, or that point in time, let's say, were willing to make serious investments around security. And so they weren't sure it was going to be worth their while or worth their partners' while to focus around security. They were going to wait until that changed. And what Weller said earlier this week is we are starting to see that change a little bit. And you can imagine that being the case this year now that you're in this work from home environment and it's a very different threat landscape. But he also said, when and if we get into security, It will be with a product that offers something new, something unique, something compelling that you can't get somewhere else. It's going to be more than an also-ran product, and it's not just going to be a marketing story that we're telling. So really, business as usual on the security front from Datto as well. They're still not going all in on that like their competitors are right now. They are, however, aware of the fact that the scene is shifting a little bit, and we might see them kind of change their perspective on security down the road a little bit.
Yeah, not too surprising news from where I sit, Rich. I think Datto is following and we've talked about this on the 5 Minute Roundup before, the pandemic, COVID-19 being a catalyst for driving more interest and investment and innovation in cloud and security. And I think, from Datto's point of view, they've cut, they're well funded now. They can innovate more, and there is opportunity to deliver more cloud service, cloud monitoring services, and security services. And I think the other half of that equation is their competitors are moving in that direction. So, they've got to respond. And so I think, maintaining that kind of that awareness, that leadership position is critical to Datto at this point in time. So I think, it sounds like they're making all the right, safe moves to grow the organization moving forward and to remain, one of the top competitors in the space.
And an interesting final note on that from a business as usual standpoint, because this kind of popped into my head this week as well. 3 years ago, almost precisely, I had an opportunity to interview Austin McCord, who was the CEO of Datto still at that time. And that was on the day, or I think the day after their acquisition by private equity went final. And one of the questions I asked was, well, what are your plans around security? And very, very similar answer, 3 years ago. And the thing that jumped out about it at the time was Austin saying, if and when we get into security, it will be with something special. We're not going to be an also ran in this category. And here we are in 2020, and that is still from the very top of the company, the perspective, the philosophy. That this could very well be in our future, but if we do it, we're going to do it in a way that it makes a splash, that does something different.
Yeah. Borrowing the if you're not first, you're last philosophy.
Well, we are as we were talking about before, we're barreling towards the end of the year here, and that means we are headed towards employee review season. Eric, I believe that's your tip of the week.
It is, and it's interesting every time I talk to different partners and clients. Everyone has kind of a different spin on review time, and more often than not, everyone's behind. Oh man, I'm late on my employee review. So I want everyone to start thinking about being more proactive about doing these employee performance reviews. And they're so important that I encourage you to do them more often than yearly. I mean, certainly at least yearly, right? But if we can get down to a cadence of quarterly, it becomes less of a performance review and more of a kind of a mentorship and guidance review, right? Because at the end of the year, Rich, what you're left with is to kind of look at last year's review for the staff member and compare it to this, what you think they did. And there's this 12-month gap in between with no opportunity usually for course correction. I just got off a call with a client right before today's show talking exactly about this. I said, well, how did they do? How did they perform against what you set them out for last year? Well, they missed 3 critical milestones that we had to get done. And so, prepare in advance for your employee review, but I say do them more often. If you're doing them quarterly, guess what? People will lose their minds, because I've had this reaction, Rich, where, my goodness, I don't have time to do them yearly. Well, it takes so long to prepare and do them at the end of the year because you're doing them yearly. If you're doing them quarterly, or maybe even biannually, like put your toe in the water, they'll be shorter. And really what it is, it's more kind of guidance and milestone, and then having conversations about how you think that employee is doing in that, at the end of that quarter. So you're giving them more effective guidance and feedback more often, allowing them to course correct. I mean, I remember, having, being sitting in review meetings where employees would say, well, heck, I thought I was doing a great job. If you'd have told me that, any time during the year, I could have adjusted, right? So just a couple of, tips, a little guidance. Prepare in advance. If you're going to do it, start doing it earlier. If you're doing them once a year, start preparing earlier. Prioritize who you're going to do, and get those done. But think about doing them more often. Shorten them and make them more coaching, guidance, leadership type of reviews. And I'll bet you your bottom dollar that you'll end up with employees that earn more incentive and more compensation and more bonuses because they're actually adjusting along the way to continually improve throughout the year.
I mean, I cannot possibly endorse that more strongly. Once a year is way too rare to be, infrequent to be talking to your employees about their performance. And that annual performance review, is a great opportunity to look at the big picture goals for the year and how did you do against those, and to talk about compensation, the year that was and the year that's coming up. But you really need to be coaching, mentoring your employees on an ongoing basis. And I mean, ideally, even quarterly, that's a good standard to reach for. But the feedback that you're providing employees here and there when, after they complete this particular task or as they're dealing with that particular ticket, that's all very useful, but they really need that one-to-one time with you alone to talk about what they're struggling with, what they want to know, what you see that they might be struggling with. And to your point, the benefits there are both that you're going to wind up with significantly more productive, effective employees, which is going to make your whole company perform better. But the employees will they really should appreciate that input and your attention and your concern about their growth and their effectiveness. And in an economy like the one we're in right now, maybe this isn't as big a deal, but in the not so distant past, employee retention was a challenge and a very significant focus for MSPs and other IT folks. And if your employees know that you care about their career growth, they're going to stick around. So plenty of good reasons to be talking on a regular basis, having coaching conversations on a regular basis with your team.
Right. And one thing I also thought about, Rich, is, if you're like many of us, we would prefer to have these reviews one-on-one, kneecap to kneecap, right? Sharing a space together. But don't let that stop you from doing them. As we've been talking about, in previous shows, we're well equipped to do these remotely. And a lot of us have remote workforces now. So, don't shy away from doing that review or feel like, well, I'm going to wait until we kind of schedule some time in the office together. That's going to work against you. Just schedule them, get them done. If you're going to do them virtually, do them virtually, but just get them done because, again, we talked about the benefit of more quarterly touches, coaching and guidance, and the morale boost and the satisfaction increase that you'll give your employees. I mean, we were all employees once, Rich. I mean, and how did you feel when you were owed a review and it just keeps dragging on month after month after month? Like that's not where we want to go either. So if you're gonna do them, if you are gonna do them virtually if you have to. Just get them done, and then maybe move into that more frequent type of cadence. Again, I promise you, they will go faster, and you will see a dramatic positive improvement from all angles that we just talked about.
Very, very good advice. And that leaves us with time for just one more story this week. And it comes to us from our Why Does This Activity Exist department? Because I didn't know this activity did exist, but it apparently does. In central China, there is an activity known as Iron Crotch Kung Fu. Iron Crotch Kung Fu, it turns out, is something where you take a log that is 6.5 feet long and 88 pounds, and you swing it through the air into a man's crotch. And I guess the point is to withstand that and prove that you can. Who came up with this idea exactly? And what is the point? My mind reels basically at the existence of this, the origins of this, the people who do this. Iron crotch kung fu, Eric. If 2020 hasn't hit you hard enough in enough ways, hey, here's a whole new thing you can potentially get into before New Year's.
You know, it was the faction of the Iron Fist Kung Fu people that said, we're done with this Iron Fist stuff. We're going to go create our own thing.
We're going to dial it up a notch. And where does it go from here? I don't think you can surpass this. So well done, whoever invented Iron Crotch Kung Fu. Well, folks, that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like the show, you want to keep up with the future episodes as they become available, maybe look at some older ones that you didn't get a chance to see before. Best thing to do is go track down the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube, become a subscriber. If you click the little bell icon, you'll actually get notifications when the new episodes go up. You want to read more about Datto and their future plans. There's also a whole story there about what's coming up and just has been released for their RMM and their PSA tool. There's all sorts of great business growth advice you can get at channelpronetwork.com every day. So please become a regular visitor there. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, your destination should be ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, thank you so much for joining us in the 5-Minute Roundup. We are going to be back next week with another episode. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.
Ready.